Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today we are making feather dice that have a mica drop. Now I attempted this before with very pale colours, but with this we're going for full saturation. We are using Let's Resin 1:1 epoxy, some lovely bright micas from Istoyo, this mica which is my favourite ever from AliExpress. I'm in love with that mica. And some absolutely stunning feathers that were given to me by Donna Starling, who is one of my friends, and she actually won my Instagram giveaway for a custom set of dice. These aren't that set. These were a set that she sent me some feathers for. All I've done is I've already mixed up my resin, because nobody wants to see me mixing resin for 3 minutes. And the resin is completely clear, there's no additives in it. We're just putting a little bit in the bottom of each of the dice, because we don't want any of the feathers to dip through the resin, because then when I sand and polish, there'll be a mark where the feather sticks through, and we don't want that. We'd like to minimise that as much as possible, but in this attempt, I'd like to try and do that without using dice blanks. So I'm trying to see if my idea works. I have also coated the feathers with hairspray and left them to dry overnight. And I've done this because when you put feathers in resin, they like collapse like they're in water into a goopy mess. And you don't get that beautiful effect of the feather. So we're going with another experiment here with the hairspray to see if that works. Me hoping that the hairspray will hold the feather in place and let me capture it mostly as it is. Obviously it's going to bend a bit because of the shape of the dice. I'm just using the stick to push some of the resin that I've put into the dice up the sides of the dice so it coats the numbers. Again, just to make sure that that feather doesn't poke through. It's all about giving us a clean there. I can talk today, honest. A clean dice face. So this is the tiniest feather of the bunch that I was sent. Obviously this is going in the D4, but look how beautiful they are. They're so bright and vibrant. I did forget to snip off the quills off most of the feathers. So this is what I'm doing right now, because that's something else that could poke out through the dice, and being a harder substance, that would be much harder to clean up on a dice face. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit today. We're just going to power through and keep going. So I've just sped it up a little bit because dipping feathers in resin takes a while, but before they go in the dice, I dip each one in the resin and then I gently push them in. But you can see how well that feather is holding its shape. So spraying them in the hairspray has really worked out well. And it wasn't any particular brand of hairspray. It was just what I had lying around. So you can use any brand for this. Just don't oversaturate them. Don't soak them. Just a very light spray. So we're just popping each feather into place, making sure that they're round the way I want them to be, because I want the most vibrant side to be on the outside. So I want that to be shown. And just making sure that they are entirely encased in the resin. Now I'm just going to clean off my tweezers. And into the colour we go. So a while ago I bought a set from Istoyo where you got a mixer to mix your resin, which honestly isn't that great for me because I only mix up like 30 to 90 mils at a time. Works well for the 90 mils, not so much for the 30. But you also got a range of 30 lovely micas in there. I am not sponsored, they're just really nice. Nobody sponsors me. But they are really nice micas and they mix in so easily. This red on camera looks a little bit more orange than red, but I swear to God it is a true red. And if you know about finding red mica, you know finding a true red mica is a nightmare. They're so rare. But this is a true red and it's absolutely stunning. So we're just putting a generous scoop into each of my little pots. The little pots that I use are Resin mixing cups for spray paint. They are lightweight plastic and they are so easy to clean. Like, I've been using these pots now for 2 years. I started with cardboard cups and then found these, and for small amounts of resin they are amazing. I literally just leave the resin to cure in them overnight and then pull the resin out the next day and they're clean and I can use them again. Now we're not putting in too much resin into each of these cups because I don't need a lot. The majority of the resin in the dice is going to be clear. We're putting such a small fraction of colour into these pots, but don't worry. This resin will get used for something else later. That'll post next time. So I'm just topping up the dice now. I'm making sure that they're about 3/4 of the way full. Because we're going to put in dots of colour. The idea is I want the mica to drop down towards the feathers, but I don't want it to oversaturate the feathers. We want to be able to see those beautiful feathers. That's the whole point. So fingers crossed this works. Obviously I know if it's worked or not. But you're going to find out. That's the fun of experiments. You never know whether something's going to work or not until it happens. And if it doesn't work, I'm still going to show you guys. Because I don't want to be fake. I don't want to only show you the successes. I think that people that do that, they give the wrong view to people who are watching and want to learn. Nobody has 100% successes all the time. Sometimes we have failures. Sometimes they are terrible. Sometimes we, the artist, hate them and somebody else absolutely bloody loves them. I've got a hideous set of pink and blue dice that I hate. I think they're awful. But other people love them and I don't get it. So here we go. We're just mixing up the colours and can you see why I love this colour? Can you see? Look how stunning it is. It's like got this hint of grey and then this metallic blue that comes through so beautifully. And I've basically tried to use colours that I saw in the feathers, along with a bit of white for relief, just against those really bright colours. Because that should make them pop more. Do you see what I mean about the istoyo colours mixing in really easily? Some mica powders, when you mix them, they clump. And then you get bits of undissolved mica powder. Unless you cheat and mix them with alcohol first. Just to make sure it's dissolved before you put the resin in. These, no problem. Look how beautiful that is. There's not a speck of undissolved mica. They just melted. I'm really, really impressed with these. I kind of wish I could buy them without the mixer because I want more of them. If you saw my colour draws, honestly, I don't need more mica. I have a lot. And yet sometimes I can't help myself. I have to buy more. Especially chameleon colours. I am addicted to chameleons. I'm sure I'm not the only person. Back to the dice anyway, because now I'm rambling. So all I'm doing is taking a little bit on the stick And I'm very carefully dropping a tiny little bit where I want that colour to be. And it's just like a drop. 1 drop or 2 drops in the same place. So it's not very much. Because I really want those feathers to be visible. This whole dice is about showcasing the feathers. So now we're going to speed it up a little bit, because otherwise this is a very long process. But here we go with the white. Again, I'm just making a little drop on the surface of the dice. And I'm trying to keep the colours almost separate. Like, I don't want them to blend. That dice was just a little bit full, so I had to take out a bit of clear resin. You can do that. You don't have to panic. But yeah, I don't want the colours to blend. I don't want mud. I want them to be separate tendrils. So as you can see, I'm just very carefully dropping a tiny little bit onto the surface of each dice. And that one's very full, so we're just pulling some out of there as well. You can always drop in more colour. You haven't got to be afraid of it. And this green was really nice too. So as you can see, my mould's just starting to dome up. And that's a really good sign that we've got just about the right amount of resin in there. I try not to put too much more now on the surface of my moulds. I've started to figure out where my sweet spot is for having the right amount of resin that I won't get voids. It still happens sometimes. It happens to everybody. But I'm figuring out where the sweet spot is, where I can have enough resin that they won't get voids, but not too much resin that I won't get really thick flashing. So I'm just making sure my lid is clean because I dropped a bit of mica powder on there. And now we're just, as usual, going to put a little bit of colour on the numbers. I'm just making sure it's clean. I was half convinced I could see a hair, but I was imagining it. Because we don't want the colours to blend on the lid either. We'd like the lid to have a good colour separation. But we also don't want any air hole pockets on the numbers. So we always cover the numbers with a little bit of resin, just to make sure. Because getting an air pocket in a number is a pain in the butt to repair. Anywhere else you can repair it. Inside a number? Nope. So I'm just taking my time, just putting... To be honest, I'm trying to look at where the colours are on my mould, on the dice I filled, and trying to put the colours in the same place. But don't bother. You're just stressing yourself out for no reason. Nobody needs to do that. I've probably got them all in the wrong place anyway, but it's going to work out. And it's going to work out beautifully. Although in the video I show you them pulled, I don't show you them finished. As of the time of recording this with the voiceover, I have actually just polished these and they have come out so lovely. I'm super pleased with them. And because Donna gave me the feathers, I am giving them to her. How could I not? It's part of the fun of making things. You can decide, screw it, my friend would love these, and just give them away. So I used a long neck lighter just to pop any bubbles that had risen to the surface. We've popped the lid on, and now they've gone into the pot for 24 hours. And I pressurised my pot at 40 psi. But this is now the next day, 24 hours later. I've just opened the pot and pulled them out. So now we're just pulling off all the flashing. This is my bag of flashing. I mention this literally in every video, I think. I collect all the flashing, and at some point, I'm thinking this week actually, I'm going to sit down and do something with some of this flashing and put it in dice and see how it looks. It might look terrible. It might not. But I don't want to waste anything, and I don't want to put more microplastic or plastics into the environment. So I try to make sure everything is as reusable as possible. The lid came off super easy and clean, which is really nice. That's giving me hope that my flashing's nice and thin. And you can see from the flashing that the colours really stayed separate. They didn't blend, which was my main concern, because I didn't wait for the resin to thicken up. And normally if you want good colour separation, like if you're doing a dirty pour or anything, you wait for the resin to thicken. And I didn't. So we're just pulling off the last of this flashing now, but you can see how super thin it is. I do wish I could give you that lovely cracking sound, but my dog that I've had for the last 9 months now, she's 9 months old, she's at that talking back stage. So when I'm demolding, she's groaning at me because I'm not playing with her. You don't need to hear that. But here we go. So that came out nice and easy. I'm just using my knife to trim off the little bit of excess flashing on the edges. And you can see how much the colours stayed separate. I do put pictures at the end so you'll be able to see properly. But I am very pleased with how these have come out. They are really, really clear. The reason I do this, that I remove my flashing straight away, is firstly, if your flashing hardens, because these are still, they're not soft, they're hard to the touch, but the flashing is flexible, as you saw from me putting it in the bag. If I left it any length of time, it would then get hard. But I also like to double cure my dice, so once I've demolded them, they go into my resin curing machine for 2 hours, just to make sure they're as hard as they can possibly be before I sand. I do then leave them a week or two before I sand, but I like to just make sure. You can see in this one in particular how nicely the colours have all come out. If there is anything you want to see or anything you want to ask me, feel free to leave comments or message me at any time. I'm happy to tell you anything. If you want links in my description of things that I've used, I can do that for you. This is the only one that overtook the feather a little bit, but you can still see the feather when it's sanded nicely. And I think the D20 is my favourite. The D20 reminds me of an old school marble, of that swirl of colour in the middle. We're just going to give you a close-up. And once these are all in my hand, I will leave you to it and hope you have a great week, guys. The photos will be coming up very shortly. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.